Welcome to the Maryland Retail Products Producer Program. This program is for producers and craft food entrepreneurs seeking to expand their retail product sales beyond the farm gate. This presentation is one component of the online training materials available on the University of Maryland Extension's Ag Marketing website. Additional training, educational materials, articles, and real-time educational opportunities can be found there. My name is Ginger Myers, and I am the Marketing Specialist for Agriculture and Food Systems with the University of Maryland Extension. In this presentation, we'll discuss what buyers in different market outlets expect from their vendors and suppliers, and how to address those possible objections. Different types of buyers, or the target audiences that you've segmented, have different expectations and when purchasing products. What chefs and restaurants expect is different perhaps than what a retail store that's stocking a product in a case or in the freezer. And certainly institutions like schools and hospitals have different needs and expectations on delivery, volume, and packaging than the two that we've listed above. You need to overcome these objections or concerns or at least questions from a retail buyer to be able to close a sale. Profitability of any marketing outlet is directly proportional to closing the sale. And a national survey shows that in sales across the nation in food services, the closing rate is only about 27%. So for every 5 potential buyers that you visit, you may only be able to convert 1. So don't get discouraged. The more you reach out, the more opportunity you have to have more sales. So let's look at addressing some of the most common questions or objections buyers have so that you can be more successful in your sales calls. First of all, put yourself in the buyer's position. So often we are so wrapped up in our own product that we forget how others might see it, whether it's designed correctly for their shelf or for their use in their food service or their menus. So develop some of those questions in your mind that buyer might have for using your product in his business. That way you can add value to any kind of objection that they might have when you can think from their standpoint with that answer. So here are some the most common objections regardless of the market outlet you go for. Your product is too expensive. Usually pricing is one of the first concerns, and it's usually one of the most often discussed items right in the very first call. So be prepared with a printed price sheet to leave with the buyer that you're discussing for their reference that has both your wholesale and a volume discount pricing if you offer that. So again, when it comes to pricing, you have to be competitive, but you also have to cover your cost of production plus a margin. So promote your product benefits for the buyer, not just the pricing that you may offer. I'm already under contract with someone else. This is often the case with some institutions like hospitals and schools that work with large suppliers. But if they already have a contract, you should still pursue contacting them. Often, large buyers can still purchase a portion of certain products outside the contract. Again, these types of buyers often purchase through contracts that handle the sourcing, the delivery, the invoicing, and provide them with a one-stop ordering process. Can you offer any of these services? How can you be competitive? Can you make the packaging easier? Can the invoicing be more streamlined in the orders? Remember, this is an extra step for them to order outside their contract. So consider, again, put yourself in their position. How would you want to receive that information or make that work? And then see if that will fit your mode of operation as well. I don't have time to deal with this right now. That can be an objection if you call at the wrong time or a way to putting you off. What is the daily routine of your target market contacts? If you're calling to talk to a chef, don't call over the lunchtime. They're busy, or a prep time. Or if it's a time of day when the buyer's very busy receiving other orders in, don't try to speak with them then. Be considerate of what they're doing and their time. And again, do some research on to when most of these types of buyers are available. There's information online, or talk to, again, some of your competitors may know when they're doing their deliveries and making their contact calls. Find out who the decision maker is for the business. Again, if somebody says they don't have time to speak with you right now, they may not be the decision maker. So you may have to ask, for the chef or for the owner or the buyer specifically to get a name, and then let that call go so they can go on. But do a follow-up, trying to catch those prospects at the right time. Again, there's a fine line between being overly pushy but courteously following up. And again, if you keep that contact information there and occasionally check back, making sure you ask for the right person or finding who that person is, you can and sometimes end up with a sale. I had a bad experience with a similar product. There's two perspectives on this. There's the buyer's perspective, and then there's also the seller. So let's talk a little bit about the buyer's perspective. So someone else coming before you that might have had a similar product failed or discouraged this buyer by not perhaps delivering product as promised. The quality wasn't as good, the volume wasn't as good, or the communications wasn't as good. So you have to separate yourself from that bad experience, but listen to why the bad experience happened. What were their objections? So listen first. Was it the delivery schedule? You can reply back with how you would handle that and how you would handle the product quality. And again, on these calls, once you get to talking with them, hopefully you've taken samples of your product so they can see the quality and those to be handed off. And in the discussion, discuss what are acceptable timeframes for any kind of change or delivery to the mix or products. Now, granted, menus get moved forward, but how much time do you need from that buyer to make a change in the volume or perhaps the product? The other side of that is how willing are they to accept a substitute? For instance, if the spinach doesn't turn out well this week, but you have really beautiful salad greens, will that work? Don't make a substitution without talking to them, but always keep the communication there, how you're going to do it, and be true to your word, because this is where buyers often get very discouraged whenever they can't get the delivery they're planning on because they have those sales right in front of them. I had a bad experience with a similar product continued from the seller standpoint. Sometimes working with chefs and retail outlets can be challenging. You may start with a certain chef and it may be going well, and suddenly that chef leaves and the next person doesn't know you, doesn't know how this has been going, and you kind of have to start all over again, establishing that contact. Also, when it comes to changing menus, try to get to know whenever any of your outlets plan to do a change of inventory. Retail often changes with the seasons. There are certain products they may want to stock in the fall going into the holidays that do not sell as well over the summer. So get to know them so that you don't have a bad experience of either losing the sale or not being prepared to move with that change. The other thing that often happens with perhaps restaurants is consolidation of the management in certain restaurants. There may be several under a single umbrella of management, and while you're working with one, perhaps when it's consolidated, that will move on. You have an opportunity perhaps to pitch to all the chefs or all the restaurants in that consolidation, or it just may not be a good fit anymore. So realize these are some of the changes and the attributes of selling in those markets, and be prepared. So one way to mitigate some of these problems for both the buyer and the seller is to have some written confirmation covering these points. Now, it need not be a formal contract, but there should be at least an email trail or some type of written confirmation that has the buyer's contact information on it. Get a name, not just the phone number or the name of the restaurant or the hospital or the school that you're selling to. Actually try to get the contact information, preferably from the buyer who has the authority to purchase. If not that, at least from the accounts payable person, so that you have a contact that will know about a bill or what's going on there. Be sure to confirm the ordering time frame and delivery schedule. When does when are orders due, and when is it to be delivered? Now, certainly sometimes someone will forget perhaps to call you and right before a holiday, or someone's been on vacation. That happens, but let's try to avoid that by having a set time frame. And if you see that a holiday falls on a delivery day that you normally would have gone to a store and restocked that shelves, ask them when they would like to move that delivery. Is that before the holiday, after a holiday, knowing that it's out of sync, but you're also sensitive to their schedule as well. Be sure you have the payment terms clear on both sides. Oftentimes kitchens or offices are busy and they might not have a check ready for you, but have an understanding of when that will be paid, or if it is COD, that you will be expecting payment when it's dropped there. Find out with retail outlets who's responsible for the inventory management. Are you to stock the bakery if you're supplying your baked goods, or is someone in that department going to do the inventory and put in the order? And certainly, what is a refund policy? You hope not to ever have returns or spoiled product, but sometimes things happen, and it doesn't really help to put blame one way or the other. But again, have it clear of, is there a refund policy there? And what turns that refund policy on? Was it the product that spoiled, or was it some kind of handling? If it was unforeseeable, like a power outage and the product in the freezer got spoiled, how do you address this? And again, I wouldn't make this a real sticky point with them, but these are the kind of questions that will help you understand how this works and signal your buyer that you're very cognizant of the risk on both sides when handling food products. Just leave me some information. That's when people are busy for whatever reason, go ahead and agree to leave the information. But perhaps when they're on the phone, you can give them 1 or 2 points of why you called. I've got the seasonal heritage tomatoes that are just beautiful and delicious, or just real quick. And make a note to contact them back in 2 to 3 weeks. Again, you might ask them if just leave me some information. When's a good time to contact you again? They may or may not give you that, but keep that contact, that tickler file in front of you to get back to them. Certainly mail or just drop off the information. If they've said leave it there, make sure you get that delivered in there. Now, it may not get to them right away, but you've made the contact. Always thank them for their time. They will be cognizant whether you were short with them, if they were short for you. Either way, remember, you're asking for their business, so always thank them for their time. You need to learn the trade processes or characteristics of conducting any kind of sales. This is just good buyer-seller research. There are certain ways products are displayed called trade dress that retailers are going to be looking for. There's certain ways that produce is boxed, whether in bunches or bags or wax boxes. How do they want that product delivered? What are the times of day that certain outlets accept deliveries? And also their typical payment program. Perhaps they are 14 days, 30 days. Just get that out in the discussion early so that you can learn, again, their processes. And back to that first point we talked about, whenever you are working or think with a buyer, to put yourself in their place. What questions would they have? What concerns? And how can you mitigate some of those concerns whenever you're talking with them and working with them? We hope that you've enjoyed this presentation and learned about overcoming some of the objections that buyers may have to retail-ready products that they're not currently stocking. We invite you back to this website for more information and presentations on helping to help you produce and successfully market your products.